And that sets the pace for the way it is. Now, on the way it is, we take a look at what has been happening, politically speaking, and what it is likely to play out in the next few days, weeks, and months. It is now 11 minutes after 7. I'll introduce the panel that we have here this morning. And to my immediate left, we have Professor Wajakoya, and then we also have Kevin Osido. Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
And thank you for joining me this morning on The Way It Is. Now, just to remind you, from wherever you're watching from, you're welcome to participate in this conversation. We're going to be opening up the phone lines later on for you to weigh in and agree, disagree, or maybe just give us your comments. You can also do that via social media. The hashtag is Morning Express KTN. You can tweet, and the Twitter handle is at KTN News, or you can tweet me directly, and that's at Michael G. Gitonga. Let us know what your thoughts are regarding some of the things we're going to look at. And gentlemen, let's start off with that last story that we ran there. And this is to do with the countdown that now we are on. And tomorrow happens to be the day that the president is going to be sworn in. However, we do have the opposition standing their ground and saying that they have a rally that they're going to have and in remembrance of those that have lost their lives in the last few days during the electioneering period. And this is likely to have an effect on the country, given that we have dignitaries coming. Let me start first of all with you, Kevin, on your thoughts on that. Even the wisdom behind, I mean, we've seen how rallies and protests have gone in this country. Doesn't make it right, but at the same time, it's possible that there could be lives lost.
Indeed, it's possible that that could happen, and it's also quite unfortunate for lives to be lost through this kind of process. And we've said, as we've always said, and we'll continue to say, that no single Kenyan should die because of elections or because of a political contest between two rivaling groups. Now, the fact that NASA will want to continue having its rally is indeed, in my view, quite interesting to look at, because we'll be keen to look at whether there are any lessons that will have been learned, both by NASA leadership and also by the police, especially given where we are coming from. That about 1.5 weeks ago, we saw a similar thing happening when the Right Honorable Prime Minister was coming back to the country, and more or less for over 6 to 8 hours, the CBD was a no-go zone, and that really affects lots of things that should happen within the nation, which therefore affect Nairobi specifically. But again, you look at the points, what exactly NASA wants to communicate. And this indeed is a communication tool. It's a strategy that NASA is seeking to employ insofar as passing its message is concerned. Initially, it was meant to be at Uhuru Park, and now it's been moved to Jacaranda grounds. And you note that in the quite recent past, NASA has really tried to make Jacaranda grounds to be quite renowned and to be much more significant in Kenyan political and in Kenya's political and historical activities. Now, Uhuru Park stands much more of the point at which you can be able to tell the direction of Kenya's politics, because that is where we have had lots of historical and political pronouncements made. Now, the fact that it's moving from Jacaranda ground also has serious points to pass, because you note that Uhuru Park and State House is almost 4 kilometers apart, and it's a place, therefore, that you wouldn't want, as you rightfully said, that we have dignitaries coming to the country. So the president and his handlers would not want to have interferences when he's having such a very important delegation into the country. But I think much more importantly is the fact that you have two different groups in the country celebrating on the same day. This, in my view, Michael, presents very precedented elements that we need to be looking at. If Kenya is supposed to move forward, how are we going to be having people holding their own celebratory or a morning? In fact, for NASA, it is a morning session, yes, because Jubilee is celebrating and NASA is mourning. They are actually passing a point, and how that point is going to play over into the political narrative of Kenya is something worth looking at. And also note that it has changed from swearing in the Right Honorable Prime Minister as a president, because he said that people want him sworn in, but he doesn't think it is the right thing. So again, how his supporters, and quite over millions of them, are going to take that. Yeah,
all right, your opening remarks, Professor.
Thank you very much, and I quite agree with what my friend has said, though this is the first time I'm meeting him. It's quite very problematic for me to say this, given the fact that Kenyans in the diaspora, or we who have lived in the diaspora for a very long time, we look into Kenya from the outside. We look into Kenya from outside the box. What this is doing to this nation is actually showing the world that Kenya is a very divided country. And on top of that, also, the image of Kenya is very, very tainted, will be tainted, yes, indeed. And the investors, on the other hand, will look at it as a place, as a no-go zone area. Because an investor confidence, the World Bank policies, the IMF policies, and any other international government economic bloc that wants to invest in this country will have to look at the alternative. It's also bad for our tourism. And it may, while people may celebrate, while people may say, okay, today we have won, we are going to usher in the president, and others mourning at the same time, I think if I was in the former prime minister's hand, I would do it wisely. I'd rather say, well, let them celebrate and let's do it the following day. But doing it on the same day, to me, as a person, as an individual, and as a person who's always very neutral, it's not good for this country.
All right, we are going to take a short break and come back with that discussion. It's now 17 minutes after 7. What are your thoughts on what Kenya should be doing? Is it wisdom for there to be that ceremony that's going to be taking place tomorrow, given that it's the same day that the president is going to be sworn in? Let your thoughts come through. I'll look through them as we continue with the show. For now, we take a short break. We'll be right back.